Hello, 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 and welcome to the Spiritual Sisters podcast. It's your favorite, Nichole Christine.
And
Very angry.
Oh, and it's me, Gabrielle Celeste, the other favorite. Hello and welcome, everyone. Yes, Nichole is angry, and Mercury retrograde is not her friend right now.
No. But who do we have with us? Who's this blonde beauty?
Hey, my name is Lindsey Walker, and I'm so excited to be here with you both today. Hopefully holding down the Mercury retrograde fort with my natal retrograde. But so far my energy is not sending out, so we need to get it further.
We need your good Mercury retrograde vibes because it is not working for us. And we coined you Spiritual Barbie in the previous 3 minutes when we tried to do this intro. So we have the beautiful Spiritual Barbie with us.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll take it.
They'll know when they see the video. They'll be like, "Oh yeah." Mm-hmm.
This is your note to go. I'll go to YouTube.
Go to YouTube to go see Spiritual Barbie. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see. Before we talk about what we're going to talk about with Lindsey, we just wanted to shout out our pod friends and family. So to our brothers over at Beyond the Shadows, Ryan and Scott. To our sisters, Katie and Kelly at All Things Outrageously Dark, Scary, Beautiful, and Totally True. And to Heather and Rachel over at Like Mother, Like Murder. I couldn't remember in the previous recording. It was a hot mess. If we can figure it out, if it recorded, I don't know if it recorded yours though, Gabs. It said it didn't. But if we can throw that in just for entertainment. For the bloopers? Oh, for the bloopers. I hope we have them for the bloopers. That'd be hilarious. It was a shit show, guys. Anyways, keep an ear out for our friends. Go check them out. They're all amazing. And the pod community is just really cool because everybody loves each other. Everybody there's like no competition. Everyone wants to share each other's shows. I love it. And I'm like, so grateful that we found such cool other shows to work with. So that is all I have.
Lindsey, we're so excited to have you. Thank you for coming on. We've been looking forward to this episode for a hot second. And I really feel as though our listeners are going to benefit from all the wisdom and information that you have to share. You and Michelle work in similar areas in the spiritual world. And every time I connect with you both and just talk with you guys about just like food and like things that can happen from, an intuitive nutrition standpoint and what this could mean and like putting this in your body, et cetera, my mind just like goes in so many different directions. And I really feel like that's one of the next arenas I need to tap into. Because I feel, and based on our previous conversations, like you got into this work through, the body. And I would love to let you just share a little bit about yourself and how you got into this world and this work in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I do hope that everything I have to share today is just, resonant with the people listening and, you're really ready to hear it. It's definitely been some years that I've kind of like dabbled in all these different things. And it's kind of like once you walk through one door, you just find the next one, even though you weren't looking for it. So it's definitely been a lot of information and experiences that have helped me. And that's why I got into this work for a profession to help other people because I was just struggling so bad physically. So kind of to go into, your question about how I got into this work, the Reader's Digest, because it could be a very long story. So we won't go the full detail of it or you'll be here for hours. But the quick version is really, I just had a lot of physical ailments, pains in my body, really starting, I would say like the bulk of it started in college. Shout out, I went to ASU. They're the number one party school in the nation. And don't you know that I made sure to make sure that was known. And I fully participated wholeheartedly.
Wait a minute. Is ASU the party school or is it San Diego State? I swore my husband went to San Diego State because it was a party school. But is ASU?
I'm sure they'll have a debate, but I'm guessing both. Depends on where you're located. I suppose it's maybe said differently, but I'm
Okay.
sure both of them are. Let's be real, every college is. But hey,
My college was lame. There was no partying going on. No, it was so lame.
Well,
Shout out
there's a lot
CSUCI.
of that going on, and I fully participated, along with many other things. I can't say that it was all of the party atmosphere. That was just kind of a small part of it that I don't think really helped my situation. I definitely did not have very many or any boundaries. Personal boundaries. I was very much in that people pleaser energy, especially in college. I wanted to make sure that I was doing things that everyone else wanted me to do. To an extent, I definitely pursued a lot of passions in mine, but as far as, emotional health and all those things, I didn't know what that was. I had no realization of that. I just went to the gym, did CrossFit because I wanted to look good and have abs, and then, would just go out and hang out with friends. So that lifestyle kind of ended up spiraling into a lot of physical ailments. The biggest one was really like breathing problems. And so that kind of like started with in college. It was kind of the end of college. I was also moving to a new city for a job, leaving everyone that I knew behind. I didn't know anyone here where I moved from. And I was leaving all of my friends and family back in Arizona. And so I was moving to a new state by myself for a job that I really, really was excited about. And I don't think I ever stopped to realize what I was doing and how I really felt about it. Like, yes, there is excitement there. And this kind of goes into like emotional health too. But it's like, yes, there is excitement there. But deep down, I think I was burying what I was avoiding, which was that scary feeling of like moving on, leaving everybody. And, at that same time, like, yeah, I was meeting new people, having all these new experiences. But I don't think I ever sat down and fully experienced that full move. And so around that time, the symptoms got worse. The feelings in my body got worse. I did not have a great diet. I was still just going to the gym, working out hard every day. And so it was just like stressor on top of stressor on top of stressor. And, we can talk about that later. Kind of the body does not see workout stress versus emotional stress is different. It's just all the same. And so it got to a tipping point where I was starting to send myself to, the local urgent care down the street, like every other day, because I was like hanging on the chair and not being able to breathe. And it was just this like full tightness in my chest. I got yelled at by an urgent care lady that said, "Hey, you can't come in here and say that you have tightness in your chest because we think you have a heart attack." So now, I'm getting like shamed and gaslit for how I'm feeling, and that trickled on to other doctors too. So it was a kind of an unfortunate scenario of how things kept going. It just kept feeding itself. It was like the more I looked for answers, the more I got gaslit. The more I felt miserable. The more they would just throw things at me and nothing was helping. So at some point, I just finally got so desperate that I really got to a point where I said I would do anything to feel better. We couldn't go out to dinner. At the time, I was dating my now husband. We had to cancel several dinner reservations, several events we couldn't go to because I just had pains in my stomach, didn't feel well. It was just a whole slew of things. I was going to all these appointments trying to feel better and nothing was happening. Nothing was getting better. And so I got to a point where I just said, I'll try anything. And the breaking point was my mom was happening to work with someone she said she did emotional clearings. And I was like, I literally don't know what that means. I don't care what it means. Whatever you want to do, go for it. I had called in to work. I was working from home. This was like back in, well, it was the beginning of 2020 before we were all working from home. So I was not normally doing that. And she calls me over the phone. She was in Arizona and she just said, "Hey, like, what's going on? Tell me all your symptoms. Like, just give me all these things." She had some questions and she's like, "I'll just start clearing emotions." And I was like, great. I did not ask her a single question. Could care less. I was like, you could do the craziest thing. And if it works, like, I give you full permission. So that's like what started down kind of the more, I had already been doing things. Like, that wasn't the very first thing. I had gone to a naturopath like right before that too. That had helped a little bit. But it was like the emotional clearings were kind of like the real first part into like any kind of energy healing. And I never even asked her what she did. It took me 2 or 3 years later to actually text her and say, what did you even do? Like, what was this? Because I worked with her for about 10 months. And that led into, I was not super thrilled about my job. And I was like, what else? I was in IT. And so I was like, well, I don't like where I'm headed in this direction of IT. It used to fulfill me. Now it doesn't. And it was like my health was crashing. I was starting to see some light with this emotional clearing. And at the same time, I'm like, hey, I want to do something else. By the way, planning a wedding and in the middle of the pandemic that happened, all like crashing into one. So I'm like, what do I prioritize first, And like the woman that did the emotional clearings for me, she got me through that wedding and like actually physically down the aisle. I had like some kind of like minor panic attack literally right before we were supposed to walk down the aisle because of I was good, and then it was just kind of everything hit. People started saying things and it started to get to me. But if she did not exist that day, I would probably still be sitting on the couch, like in the bridal suite. No. So, I mean, it was like at that point, it was still kind of crutching along. It wasn't until like I started to get further and further deeper, more into the emotional clearings, more into figuring out. Then I found out more about root cause nutrition and root cause healthcare and all that that I did for myself, worked with a group that actually started getting some of my symptoms even feeling even better. Those started to clear up. But really, like the emotional clearings was like kind of the stepping stone into this world that I just never even knew was going to happen. So once I started to feel better from all of these, what people consider alternative things, it was hard for me to turn a blind eye. People say it's crazy, it's woo-woo, it's weird, it doesn't work. But, when you go to all these other doctors, all these other physicians, all they do is gaslight you, throw a pill at you, and it makes you feel worse. And these other things actually make you feel better. At that point, I was like, I don't even care what other people say or believe. I'm all in. And so that's what really got me here. I did not plan on doing anything like intuitive readings, healings, anything like that. I had no idea that was like towards the end of this, journey that I had started. But it kind of just kept snowballing itself. And I wanted to learn more. So I signed up for every certification I could that I could find. And that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years. So I've had to pump the brakes on the certs, but that's
it's so funny because it's so opposite, right?
Yeah.
You said you were doing IT and now you're doing like intuitive stuff, right? Like just very opposite ends, I think, of the spectrum for sure. It kind of reminded me too, just the beginning of your story of like having these physical ailments and wanting to figure out what you could do to address it. It kind of reminded me of like Queen Mother's story where she was having problems with her, I think it's her knee, and she was like, there has to be a different way, right? And her coming from a background of having a father who is a physician, right? So very science-based to, okay, yeah, but like there has to be something different, right? And just kind of figuring out new ways to treat these problems. So kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Queen Mother absolutely. Is Nikki, by the way.
I was going to ask, and then she started talking, and I was like, I think I know who she's talking about now.
Yeah.
Queen Mother.
That's hilarious. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not, the traditional route. I for sure tried the regular route the first time. Like I showed up and paid my $50 to every like urgent care who would take it. And, they saw me. It just didn't do anything. Yeah. So, and I do have a mother who has always been into these type of, what people call alternative or holistic things. Even since I was young, she took me to Reiki, I think when I was 3 or 4. I don't remember it, but we went. So I think that has always been there in the background. Not that I really took hold of it until I was much older, but it was kind of like that was always something that was there. I saw her being okay with it. So at least I did have some kind of family support to say, this is normal or this is like accepted, where I know a lot of other people say like, I don't have any support from my family. Everyone around me thinks this is weird. And I get that. I can't fully empathize with you because I'm telling you I had a different experience, but that was really helpful for me. And I do think that was a lot of why I did go down this route. I mean, she's been the one that has really kind of like sent me people. You know, she sent me the emotional clearing woman. You know, she sent me other people, and she kind of just like drops the nuggets. Like, I think part of it, her realizes this, but maybe not fully. And so she's kind of the one that just keeps like dropping little nuggets. And it's like, you know, if I pick them up, great. I could totally be the one that just leaves them there and say, no, you're nuts. But for a while, I was like, I started to hear what she was doing. And she was talking about, you know, like talking to her father who had passed. And she was like going to this woman. I don't even remember what she was going to her for. And she's talking about like, oh, yeah, I talked to Papa after he passed or whatever. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm jealous. Like, I actually want to do this. Like, how did you do this? And so I was like mad. I was like, how can she do this? And that was years ago.
So at what point, by the way, I totally do what your mom does with people around me, and it's really fun to see the domino effect.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what this podcast is morphing into, and like on a bigger scale, even though we're really just here to learn and have a good time at the same time. But when did you piece together that energy, like you had this realization like, oh shit, like energy is a thing, and like I could actually make a living doing this? And what does, you know, energy mean to you, and how does it show up in readings with your clients?
So I think from, you know, like I said, I had grown up with a mother who always showed me that these things were real, that they were possible. She believed in them. So I think part of me always knew, whether I consciously knew it or not, it was always kind of hanging out in the background. So it was just for me to consciously realize it. The emotional clearings were truly the biggest thing. I put my complete trust in some woman that I still to this day have never seen. I have no idea what she looks like, which I'm sure people are like, you're crazy. Maybe you think she doesn't exist, but like whatever she did, and now I do know that what she did, she actually was using the emotion code and a few other things, which I then became trained in because I was like, this is gold. But it was as I started to go down these paths of certifications that I started to realize how powerful these things were. Like, I had already experienced it for myself. And the funny part was, for me, it was kind of like, okay, emotional clearings were the first thing. And then second, I started working with a group doing root cause health. And that's kind of what they called it. It was a group, and they did muscle testing. They did lab work as well, blood work. And they were both nutritional therapy practitioners. And that was in 2021, right after I had done an astrology class, which like also kind of, you know, just got thrown in there because I was just ready to learn all the things at that point. And I was like, well, you guys do this as a job. Like, for sure, I could do it. And so that was what really like started my, I can do this as a job. But the year before, I was like, oh, we'll go be a naturopath or an acupuncturist. And then I looked, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars in like 4 or 5 years. I was like, yeah, we don't have time for that. So not about that one. But I really thought, like in 2021, I really thought I was going to just fully be a nutritional therapy practitioner doing blood work. I was going to take a blood work course, the same one that the woman who did the group course that I took, she has a certification for it. And I was like, awesome, she can teach me how to read this from a root cause perspective. That's the route I started to go down. Well, then I'm at the same time doing the emotion code class, the certification class, reading the book. And I'm using it on myself, on everyone else. And of course, I had already received like the benefits from years past. Then I find the next thing, which is the mind, body, spirit release, which just felt more robust as far as like an energy or emotional, spiritual release, as far as some kind of like therapeutic thing. And those people were doing it for a living. So I kept seeing people doing the same things that I was learning for a living. And I'm like, well, you are all making money doing what I just enjoy doing. I do it for free. And so it was kind of just as I kept going, and I thought I was going to stop there. I thought I was just going to do mind, body, spirit release, do the nutritional therapy, run some blood work, and call it a day. And somewhere along the way, I run into Nikki Novo, and that is where I, go down the soul expansion, soul teacher, the entire intuitive path that I never saw coming. So at that point, I had already known that energy was powerful. I had seen it in the emotional clearings, I was never in the same room with these people doing these therapies. They were always like in another state. I had been doing muscle testing, or what people also refer to as energy testing, for years. People around me had always been doing it. So it was never like anyone had to convince me that energy was bound by time and space. That was just almost something I just already knew because of everyone around me. So when I got to, Nikki's world, I had never done any kind of readings. I had never done anything that she was teaching us, but I did feel like I picked it up pretty quick because there wasn't any kind of limiting beliefs around that side of the coin, where it was like, well, you're not in the same room as someone, you can't touch them. To me, it didn't matter. She said, pull in this energy or see this stuff in your head. And I was like, okay, cool, got it. So that was really cool because I felt like, I finally got the hidden secret that my mom had been like telling me about that she had. And I was like, well, how do I learn how to do this? She had just seen it, but she was like, I don't know, I just do it. So when I got there, it was definitely like a lot of things started to click. But you asked, how do I see energy, or how do I work with it? I definitely see it. That's why I keep saying like visual seeing. That is I would say my strongest clair, although I do feel like I use a bunch of others as well. But when I'm reading someone or when I'm doing any kind of like readings, healings, anything like that, I don't necessarily like see faces. I see just like beings of light, I would say. There's been times where I like see figures, but they're not necessarily like faces. But I definitely see like a lot of scenes. I'm kind of just shown or like told a lot of different things. And I do feel like I use a lot of my background from the nutritional therapy and knowing about root cause health, when I'm in there like looking for, what needs to be done as far as healing or like what blocks maybe someone has. I'm definitely like subconsciously pulling from all of the trainings that I've done already, things with even the emotional clearings. I don't think I consciously know that it comes up, but it's definitely always like in the background.
I have so many questions.
I could see Nicole's like
first one,
wheels turning for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm taking notes.
I know. I love it.
Okay, so question 1. I'll start at the top. When you said right now, and it's not really the top, I just ran out of room at the bottom and then I had to move it to the top, but
it's all good.
When you said right now that you see beings either like light or whatever, so some people have said when they see things, they see them in their mind's eye. Some people actually see things, if you're on Zoom, like maybe you see a light like in my room behind me. So for you, what is it? Is it that you see it in your mind? Is it that you can see it physically? Like, what is that looking like?
Yeah, it's always in my mind's eye. I've never been the one to like see it, like on Zoom in physical form like that. Part of me like still has that jealousy, but then also I'm like, wait, no, I don't want to see that either. Yeah, I have like a lot of jealous of like what other people can do. I'm like working on like dropping that. But yeah, it's always been in my mind's eye. It's almost like, I close my eyes and I'm having a dream or something. Like there's a whole scene going on. If I just close my eyes, send myself to wherever I'm intentionally sending myself to, and it just starts to play out like a movie.
Okay. So. Next question. What is the difference between the emotional clearing that you had and then like the healings that we've learned in Soul Teacher, Soul Reading Method? Mm-hmm. Because at first I was like, oh, maybe it's the same thing. But then you said the emotional clearings was the practitioner working off of kind of the emotion code, which is on my list of books. And I was like, fuck, I haven't got that book yet. Now I need to get it. But I have like 10 books I haven't started.
Oh, so doesn't everyone?
What's the difference between that and then the healings that we've done or learned?
Yeah, so the way I see it, and I would say there's similarities, but they're not the same. So for the emotional clearings or releases, whatever you want to refer them to, they are on the I would say the physical level or the energetic level. It's on the human body level. You're really not touching the spiritual aspect most of the time. I will say there are like a few pieces in the mind, body, spirit release that there are some like spiritual aspects to it. But most of the time, if it's just, like working on the emotion code, it's working on your energy body. So your human meat suit energy body. When you process emotions or don't process emotions, they can get stuck in places in your body. So like in the emotion code, they talk about emotions getting trapped somewhere in your body. And you can like literally think about it like this little energetic ball that just gets lodged somewhere in your body. And, there's also a lot of organs, or all your organs actually are linked to certain emotions. So most often it's like if, for example, anger is related to the liver. A lot of times, if you have the stuck emotion of anger, it's going to get stuck in your liver. Now I'm not sure anyone can fully 100% prove that. I'm sure there's a ball of energy of anger that can get stuck in your foot if if something was really going on there. I don't know. But the fact is it can get stuck in your body, this like ball of energy. And so the way that happens is you have an emotion. So here's the other thing too, because a lot of people will say, well, am I just not supposed to have like negative emotions? Or how do I feel? How am I like able to feel emotions without getting them stuck? And really the biggest part is being able to feel them. So it's not that you shouldn't have negative emotions or even positive emotions, but the fact is our society is very much taught to not feel them. So you have an emotion, you have a thought, and then it brings on an emotion of some kind. It could be what you perceive as positive or negative, but you have this emotion. The emotion has to come in, you have to, acknowledge it, and then it has to be actually felt so it can process and move out. That is how a healthy emotional relationship with your body should be. But the problem is, if you feel like you need to express and feel your emotion, like crying, you're sad, or just even if you're happy and you want to cry. But in our society, it's like, well, if you cry, you're weak. A lot, especially for a lot of men. I mean, I know just for women too. I mean, I used to have, like in high school, this mental running track record of I haven't cried in public in 3 years, and I was so proud of it. Who has that? Like, why? Because we're told that you can't cry. You can't cry in front of people. People don't know how to support you. You start to have some kind of emotion that's outside of their realm of what they know what to do with, and they're just like, we don't know what to do with you anymore. Like, you just go over here. So now you're shunned. Now, really, no one wants to be with you. And so we don't learn how to process emotions. That's the biggest problem. And really being able to feel it in your body and express it. That is what's going to get it to leave so it doesn't get trapped. And most emotions only need about 90 seconds to be felt. So.
Okay, so that I was just like feeling the vibe. I was like, yep.
Did she freeze?
I have a question.
There she is.
Oh, I can still see her.
Oh, okay. I think it was you, Nichole. So question. So again, we're talking about it I know Nicole's therapist's brain was like kicking in and stuff. And I was thinking about like the importance of just like how regulating emotions is something that we're really not taught in our society, especially today. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking from a spiritual perspective, because I just had a girlfriend do a healing, not on me, but on someone, we know in our circle. Mm-hmm. And she was saying how, that feeling got trapped and it eventually became a belief, and that energy eventually transmuted into a negative entity that had stayed with this individual for a long time. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't even think about that. Like, if you really like start telling yourself that, like that becomes a reality. And we know, because we work in this world, that there is shadow to this, and the shadow mm-hmm. is, things that get attached and feed off of our life force.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback on that really goes into the energy side of things, because you attract what you are. So if you are just this big, giant, pent up, stuck emotion meat suit, you are going to start attracting that vibration, which is not a great vibration. Now, it doesn't mean that those specific emotions have a negative or a low vibration, but the fact that they are stuck in your body and probably have nowhere else to go if you keep sticking them in there, then, you're not going to be a like high vibrating human who's just being able to flow and ebb with life and be able to, live your highest vibration and live your highest self, because you're going to be attracting all of this stuck negative energy. So maybe you get one emotion stuck. That's kind of lowering your vibration a little bit. You continue to get them stuck because you're not processing anything. And you just continue because now you are like layering. You, as your body continues to vibrate at a certain level, you're going to be attracting at that level. And now, like you said, with the limiting beliefs, now you're now creating a more negative vibration with that limiting belief because of the stuck emotions. And now, like you said, you'll let in some kind of dark entity or being or something. And so it's like, did that start as a spiritual experience? No, it started because you didn't cry or something, or, you didn't feel something, but you let that spiral and you let it continue, and you never stop to say, I need to break out of this loop and actually raise the vibration. And that's where like all the energy can just...
I feel like we're already going to need a part 2 because my brain is going in so many different directions. But Nichole, I was thinking, I
have so many notes and we're not even like touching any, like half of it, like a quarter.
I know Nichole had another question, but you had said something about vibration, and we attract like attracts like. But also, that had me thinking, which is a little bit off topic, and I'm going to divert back to Nichole so she can ask what she wanted to ask, because I didn't mean to interrupt. But there was a conversation that you and I had where I didn't realize that, and this may seem a little extreme to other people, but when I had surgery, 10, 15 years ago, this was a while ago at this point, that because your auric field is weakened, even then you can have entities attached to you when you're under anesthesia or any type of... And I didn't know that. So when you had said that, I was like, holy shit, there's like this whole other world in spirituality that you are an expert in that needs to be explored.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Anytime that your energy or your auric field is compromised in any kind of way. So yeah, for sure, surgery. If you're about to have any kind of surgery, go find yourself a spiritual healer, an energetic protection, somebody who believes in this stuff to an extent, because you're going to be under the knife. You can't do this yourself. Yeah, you can protect to an extent, but they need to like protect you from a spiritual level. Yeah. And I think it was like my mom that had told me this story, or something. Of course it came from her, like, let's be real. And so, but yeah, she had said that, and there's multiple stories. How many people come out of surgeries with like another type of illness that's not even related to the surgery? I mean, sure, there's, bacteria and all the other things that could have potentially been in there, but it's like, yeah, but how many times are entities like potentially connected to, something like bacteria or parasites or whatever? Now you can start to cross with the root cause things that people talk about in these toxins, and then the low vibrations of spiritual beings and these dark entities. And people are like, oh, well, no, they're different. Yeah, but they're the same vibration. So you're inviting in that vibration. Did you invite it in from the spiritual level or from walking outside, in like bad soil? It doesn't matter. It can come in from any direction.
You got me thinking. As soon as we had that retreat and we've just, known one another and all of the things, I'm thinking like, shit, can I do a home birth when that season of life comes? Because like, I think about that. I'm like, I could see myself doing a home birth. Like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see when we cross that bridge.
Hey, I'll be there to cheer you on, or at least, like from the outside cheering you on.
Who's going to pull the baby out? Are you going to Kourtney Kardashian it?
She's going to do it herself. Hell yeah.
You remember my birth, right? You were in the room.
I saw it. It will forever change.
So you want to do that at home?
I think about that all the time. I think about Nichole before. I never would have considered it, but now I'm just like, oh my gosh, like maybe I could. Anyways,
what? I would, right? Like in the little kiddie pool, I would do that. Yeah. With like a lot of drugs, though. Like I would need to have
end up a drug.
Painful. I would need to have drugs, and I'll sit in a kiddie pool. It's fine. What they do, I've seen it.
What was your question, Nichole?
No, I have another question, but I'll get to it later. But as you were talking, a different question came up.
This is what happens. This is what happens.
I think I only answered the last question half, but that's okay.
This is why we never get to everything, because all these other things come up.
That's okay.
You don't have to go into detail, but so you talked about how emotional clearing is different than the healings. And then as you're describing it, I was wondering how similar or different is it to Reiki? Because I still don't really quite know a lot about Reiki, but I'm wondering, is it the same? Is it different? Are there parts that are the same? Like, how would you compare and contrast those?
So I've never been trained in Reiki. So I think, Gabrielle, you have, so you could probably talk to that a little bit more.
Yeah.
All I've been told is really that it's like moving life force energy through your hands. Yeah. So I just have never been fully trained in it. It's just never been something that I got sent down on my path. But as far as like the intuitive healings that I do, I'm not going off of a format. Like I'm going off of, obviously what we were trained to do in Soul Teacher to an extent. I kind of use that as like the blueprint, but I really just ask my guides, and I'm asked, in the circle, like in the healing circle, like what needs to be done. And I'm just shown things. It's usually like clearing out any kind of blocked energy, or also like pulling in, source energy. So, I guess if source energy and life force energy, as far as Reiki goes, is considered the same thing, then that might be similar. It's just in a different way. Like I'm doing it in a meditative state. I'm like seeing this all happening like a scene, but I am still like using, my guides or archangels to pull in energy, move stuff around, clear things out. I've seen stuff with like past lives for people, and, I've like pulled out I've had someone from my healing team like pull out a sword from something, and then we kind of cover it up and heal it and everything, like what people would think about someone doing like in a hospital, but you're doing it like in an energetic setting. But it's usually it also comes from the reading of like, where did I see your blocks? Where did I see like the, weaknesses in your chakras, or related to the symptoms, things like that. But it's not like I'm following a specific step-by-step order.
It's almost like something that you would think would happen, or like a story be depicted in a comic book, but you're literally doing that in like a meditative state. And I feel like with all the certifications and the experience that you've had, like, with the motion code and then the INP and, soul reading and all of those put together, like your healings are A1. And I can attest to that because I died this week after the healing.
Thank you.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Because, hold on. But with the emotion code, because I've been wanting to do Reiki. I had wanted to do Reiki years ago, but I'm kind of hearing about this other thing, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe I might want to do this emotion code training. Will I get more letters behind my name if I do emotion code? Because you have a lot of letters on your name. Will I get some letters with that one or no?
I think technically I don't use those. Like I say it, like I say I'm certified. I truly don't use it a lot anymore. I think the awareness of having that certification and going through it definitely shows up. Do I specifically sit down and do it right now? No. I can't say that I won't in the future. There's just some modalities that seem to kind of like flow in and flow out. And it really depends on the client too. So I do like to, I use the muscle testing to really see like, what does this person need? Now, obviously, if you're coming to me for an intuitive reading and healing, like that's what I'm going to do. But as far as like going further and someone that I'm working more closely with, I have a bunch of tools in my toolbox, I just kind of pick out. But I will say I personally do not use the emotion code as much. Really, I haven't touched it in a while as far as like going through the exact format. But I do think it's very, very useful. Even just reading the book. I mean, the guy tells you exactly how to do everything. You're just not technically certified to do it on other people. So,
but you could. You just.
I mean, that's
like
that's
I don't need to tell anybody, right?
I don't think you could charge. I think that's their whole thing. You have to be certified to charge if you're going to do it. So it just depends. I think the book is fantastic, especially if you're interested. He does a really great job in the book of explaining everything. I mean, I ate that book up in like a week. I mean, it did not take long. And if you're really into it, it goes fast. For sure.
Nick, I feel like you'd like what Lindsay's saying, like to read that book, but then also just to still do Reiki because your hand chakras get activated when you do that alongside others. And so I have Reiki 1, and Reiki 1 is so you can do it on yourself and in person with consent. Whereas like Reiki 2, it's like you can do it at a distance. So that's more like the healings that we're doing from, afar. And if anything for me, what I think it's really strengthened is primarily what I do, which is like chakra readings. So I have like a strong awareness of like the 7 mainly, and then obviously we know that there's more, but for me, like it really supports me when I'm like at home dying. Like I was dying this week after our session.
Sorry.
So. No, it was great, girl. I appreciate it.
Means
do you
you're
want
ready.
Do you want to talk about your session?
Yeah, I want to hear how different mine was from yours and the feedback that we gave Lindsey, apparently, because we
I
haven't talked about
know.
that.
Oh, you guys haven't talked about it?
No,
So, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I mean, I can go first. It sounds like yours was a lot better. So,
You're gonna scare people away.
I know.
It was really good because I've been working on, I think the common takeaway from both of our readings, and obviously we both now know that like Lindsey, you just said like mine was a lot different than what you heard from Nichole. But the takeaway is that we both came out enlightened in a way, like, oh shit, like that was something we hadn't really thought about or like put together for ourselves. And that's why we work with guides and healers like you, Lindsey. And I've been very open about me working on my solar plexus upgrades. And the bottom 3 chakras, you guys, solar, sacral, and root, are the hardest to heal. And I'm not in my body. Like, I'm always up in the top 4. It's like I'm a space cadet, honestly, most of the time. And so I think that's why it's easy for me to channel. But I ignore the bottom 3 that keep me on planet Earth, right? And because I've been so hyper focused on my solar, I forget about my sacral, which is one of my authorities in human design. And my root, which is a whole different conversation, and that actually came up in the reading. She's like, they just feel like they were forgotten about, and I was like, no shit, yes they have. So it's like it's a balance that you really have to work with all of those centers to keep it in flow and in flux. And even us as practitioners, we forget, but I was dying because I had my moon cycle and it was a reflection of how powerful the healing was. And I highly recommend any type of healing and reading with Lindsey because she has so many things in her arsenal and toolbox.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. So before the reading, for weeks, probably like a good month, I was just struggling. I think you said maybe I was in integration after soul reading. I was just going through it. I was just like, I don't want to do anything. Gabby kept telling me, you need to start your business. I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to do readings.
Called.
I don't feel called. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to meditate. I don't want to do anything. And I don't think we talked about this, but when we were on vacation, Gabby texted me one night, and I saw it when I woke up, right? Because we were 9-hour time difference. And she said, your guides want you to connect with them. And I was like, motherfuckers. Like,
they came to me.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
Because Nichole was like, well, okay, we know what happens if you ignore your guides.
They said they were going to take my gifts away.
Yeah, we don't want that, guys.
No, they're like,
it's harsh.
They're intense. They're not very nice to me. So anyway, there I was having to wait for her to tell me how my guides connected with her. But I was like, damn it. Okay, well, fine. So I've just been having a hard time. I haven't been wanting to do anything. I was like, I don't want to do readings. I don't want to do anything. I just want to do my podcast and that's it. So even with the podcast, so that we can speak to people's offerings and what they're coming to talk about, right? We usually have readings. And I had texted Gabby that day. I said, Gabby, I can't keep doing these readings. I'm so burnt out. And maybe we both don't need to do readings. Maybe only one of us needs to do readings, and, we can do our reading later on down the road when we feel called to it. Like, I don't think they always need to be done maybe before the episode. Just one of us can do it. I said, I'm not looking forward to doing more readings. I'm just like burnt out.
And that was nothing against you, Lindsey.
No, it wasn't. It was just me. It was just like, I've done so many readings. I keep hearing the same thing, which is good, right? It's confirmation that, okay, everybody's getting the same thing. But I was just so burnt out. So we had our reading, and then I told you just at the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, Lindsey, I love your readings. I love how you go into meditation with us, right? With the client, with the sitter. And that part was so nice. I was like, oh, this right off the bat is really different. So I really enjoyed that piece. And then at the end, when we did the healing, I was sitting there, and I think I went into a trance state for a while because I started seeing the the stuff you see on like trance video screens, right? I started seeing that. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm ready to do readings again. I'm going to start my business now. Like, I'm ready. And all of a sudden I just felt so light, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. So, I mean, was that so much more different than yours, Caps? I don't know. I felt like it was still.
It was, I mean, we both had like distinct takeaways, right? And that was actually something else I forgot to mention. I'm glad you said that, Nichole, about feeling like you were in a trance, because I definitely felt that. And, you know, without sharing too much about like my energy, because I'm, you know, protective of it, and I'm very particular about like the healers I work with, but my chakras right now aren't in the most aligned space. And when I was receiving your healing and in meditation, I shit you not, you guys, I literally felt like almost like half of my body and like the lower two chakras like crack and get back in alignment. It was almost as if like I had been pushed by an archangel, because I had felt, you know, angelic presences around us. So I thought that was really powerful. So I definitely feel as though like your healings are just prime.
And before the healing, I remember, because the focus was very heavy on my sacral, and I remember I told her I can feel energy literally in my sacral. Like I can push it. I can literally put my finger on where I'm feeling it right now, which was crazy too. And then I also think at some point, and I wish I would have listened to the recording again, but Lindsey, did I mention something about like feeling something in my chest, like pressure almost being lifted? Like I felt like I like it was just and that's when I was like, I'm ready. Start doing readings.
Yeah, you I mean, because you were asking me how I felt, and like you were kind of telling me how you felt, and I do remember we were only in the reading portion, and you were like, I feel like what you're talking about. I was like, well, we haven't even gotten to the healing. So yeah, I don't remember exactly the details of what you had said. I try not to, you know, I try not to like remember everything, but I do remember you saying something about like, you know, being lifted. I do vividly remember you coming out of that healing and you're like, I'm ready to do readings. I was like, whoa. Not what we were working on, but I'll take it.
It was not what we were working on. It was not what I expected, but it was just out of nowhere. I was like, oh, like I'm clear. I'm ready to go again. Anyway, so that brings me to another question I had, because it ties back into the reading. So when you were saying earlier that the body doesn't recognize, or the body can't differentiate between stress, if it's stress, emotional stress, or if it's workout stress. And I remember during the reading, you asked me about physical activity, and you asked me specifically about exercise. You were like, do you exercise? How often? Do you enjoy it? And I told you, and you're like, okay, like keep doing that. And so I guess when that was mentioned earlier, I started wondering, am I putting my body under stress from my workouts, even though I enjoy them?
Yeah, so working out is stressful to the body. I mean, even doing yoga to an extent, there is some form of stress, because if you're trying to build muscle or build endurance, or, you know, get your body in any kind of, you know, top physical shape, or just to keep your, you know, health up, it is a form of stress. Now, obviously, doing yin yoga and, you know, some like really intense HIIT workout is very different. It's a much, you know, the range of stress is very different. But to an extent, it is still semi-stressful. So you do need to always make sure that you're recovering. And, you know, one of the reasons why, you know, I do remember asking you that was because part of it too is a lot of people will just work out because they've been told that this is the best thing to get the results that you want. So now you're putting your body under stress, which isn't always necessarily a bad thing, because you have to go under some kind of stress to build the muscle, build the endurance, build whatever in your body. But if you're doing something that's now A, stressful, and B, you don't even like it, now you're putting yourself under additional unnecessary stress. It's now becoming emotional stress. You're like dragging yourself to the gym. Why do I have to be here? I don't even want to be here. That's now just adding. So we don't want to necessarily add on the layers, because it's all energy. Every single thing in our world vibrates. It is energy. Everything is always moving. So if you take the stress of a heavy barbell, and the stress of just not wanting to go to the gym because you actually hate this workout. Those two things may look totally different to you, but to your body, there's still just energy that's vibrating, and it's still just stress that's being induced on your body. So that's one of the reasons why, if you are hopefully someone that works out, I hope all of you are someone that works out and moves your body, because it is just fantastic for your body to move in some capacity, that you are picking something and choosing something that you actually enjoy, and not something that you're dragging yourself to because someone told you that it's the best thing for you. The reason why there's so many different exercises, workouts, movements is because not every single person is the same. Everyone is different. Your body is going to need something different than my body. And your body in a certain season is going to need something different than in your next season. If you have a really stressful job right now, or your family is really stressed out, or there's just other stress that's happening, some people might really benefit from a super intense workout because that's where they get all their stress out and they really enjoy it. But if for you, it actually makes things worse, and it sends that stressful experience that you started at home into a tailspin when you get to the gym, that is not productive. That's not helpful. So that's why there's never going to be a blanket, at least from me, there's never going to be a blanket recommendation for a workout or for, nutrition or anything, but it is, what do you like? And if someone cannot tell me what they enjoy or what they like, or they can't say, you are very clear, like, yes, I enjoy the workout that I do. Awesome. Keep doing that, but keep checking in with yourself, because what if you get to a point where you don't? That doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means you have to go find something else. There's a lot of people that can't even tap into themselves and say, do I like this? Why am I here? I have no idea. I just showed up one day. That is not okay. You need to tap into your own body. You need to tap into your own energy and see, what are you saying, not what is everyone else saying.
Yeah, I think that was part of it too, because I was like, well, yeah, no, I love it. And the most stressful part of it is the time, right?
Right.
But it's either I figure out the time or I don't go. And if I don't go, my mental health is a mess and my family is going to be the brunt of it. So we can't have that. But I understand what you're saying, because lately, especially because I do have sciatica, lately I have been craving more yoga. I haven't done it, but I've been thinking I need to do some yoga for my sciatica.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear that part.
Yeah. I always feel like
you'll be given nudges.
Mm-hmm.
You can take them or leave them.
I usually leave them, and then now they're showing up to Gabby. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. I was saying, I always feel like I have I always receive medicine when I speak to you, and I honestly feel as though it's like that Taurus moon in the first house, which is like a beautiful placement in the best of ways. And I actually wanted to ask, like, how do you feel the spiritual world and like the physical world merge as one? Because I really feel we can agree. Well, I would also love to know. I just don't want to assume that we are humans having a spiritual beings having a human experience, I should say. The reverse.
Wait, real quick, I have something funny. So the other day, my son asked me something. He was just asking, what is this? And what is that? And blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and what is the body? I was like, the body is a vessel for our soul in this lifetime. And my husband just looked at me and he was like, oh gosh. And my son's like, huh?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I wish all parents talk to their children like that.
I mean, nobody listens to me. Everybody just thinks I'm crazy in this house, but
that's okay.
Whatever.
Never
It'll
know.
Change.
They're listening. They just don't want you to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for sure, the physical and the spiritual body are very much connected. When I talk about all the things that I do and, in my practice, I usually will mention physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual. And those are kind of like the different levels of bodies, I guess I would say, that you could look at someone through. But we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And part of that can be really difficult for people, like Gabrielle, when you said you're like living in your top chakras, that can be something that is difficult because you're not really grounded in earth. And, if really all of us come from somewhere else to an extent. And our souls are used to things happening really quickly. So even when the body is like healing slowly, you're used to, from a soul perspective, of things happening really quick, which I do feel like is why, we have access to this energy healing and intuitive healing, because that's almost like the little, heard someone call it like cheat codes for us to tap into. We're able to tap into that spiritual or energetic experience or healing and bring it in to our physical body, because we're still connected. There's still a connection. It's never like you're separate. You're not just this physical body that's sitting in a chair and that's it. You are connected to your own soul. So, and even people that are religious believe that, if they're not spiritual but they're religious, they believe that to an extent. Yet when you say, you can do this energy healing and intuitive work, they all think you're nuts. And I'm like, wait a minute, like what happened with the disconnect? You're saying that we're spiritual beings, yet when anyone says anything about doing any kind of energy work or something that you really cannot see, I think that's the biggest thing, is spiritual work or energy work, however you want to call it, you can't see it. Or you can, some people can, most people or all people could if they wanted to, but then there comes in the belief. Do you believe it? And we are taught as a society, and I think part of this is just what we're here to learn, or some of us are here to learn, is that our physical body is here to teach us something.
Mm-hmm.
We are not all meant to see everything that, someone who calls himself intuitive can, but it's all still real. And I think that we have gotten really caught up in, well, if I can't prove it, if I can't see it, if I can't tell you 110% that this is factual and true and it happened, then you're wrong. And what happened to, that essentially is the definition of being gaslit, is telling someone that their feeling or what they're experiencing is not true. But every single thing has to be, from most people on this physical plane, they have to see it to believe it. Where I believe that if I believe it, then I'll see it in my mind's eye, or however it comes through for people. Mm-hmm. And that's how I see the physical body and, the energy and spiritual being connected, because there is no separation. So, when you go to a doctor that's saying we're only looking at this organ or we're only looking at this one thing, I just feel like those are the people that are missing an entire soul, let alone the whole body.
Yeah.
I mean, let's start there. Yeah. Your whole body talks to each other. You are not separate. You're not cut out in little boxes or pieces. You are one whole body. Your mind is working together. Your energy body that nobody can see. Everyone has like an aura around them that you can't see. Some people can. I am not one of them, but you can. And that is all connected to our soul or our higher self. And I just don't understand. I guess I believe it to an extent where maybe I don't even explain it well enough to people that they're like, I just don't get it. And I'm over here like, I just don't know how else to explain it, because it's such a strong belief. And I do feel like your experiences and your own feelings that you have will strengthen that belief. But if you don't allow yourself to go there, if you don't allow yourself to have the beliefs or have the experiences or have the feelings, you're going to block it. You can absolutely block something that is real.
Yep. So much wisdom there. There's so much to sit with there. Yeah, I mean, it's so true. And honestly, just to echo that, you said something that, some people aren't just meant to know about, this intuitive stuff or just this other world, and are meant to have very like human lives. I don't know how else to describe it. Queen Mother literally said that. She's like, it's part of our their soul contract. Like they are literally meant to not be awoke or woken up or woke or whatever in this lifetime. And it's I've had to remind myself that when I'm in settings as of late, especially, and like, gatherings or functions or family functions. And I'm just like, I think I'm just so awake and aware to the energy that I have to realize that like people aren't on that level, nor will they ever be there, nor will they ever have that level of an awareness. And it's actually something that's almost a reminder to like help me ground. It's like, okay, Gabby, like you need to come back to planet Earth and like enjoy and live in the moment and be present. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw something on Instagram the other day that someone said like there are souls that sometimes they're having a resting life. You don't know what they're either resting from or they're resting to do. And I wish I remember who said it. But anyways, it was like, there are some people that are just not here to do the big things, and they're just here to exist, and they're here to like go to the movies and eat popcorn and not have a damn thing wrong with them. And you're like, amazing. I literally do everything. I do have every biohacking device on the freaking planet, and I eat all this clean stuff. I do all this energy work, and I still have all this shit. And this person is just like living the high life. But they're saying, like, from what you see, but they might be living what they call a resting life, where they're just not meant to do all this other stuff. And I do, like, Gabrielle, to your point, I do think that is a good reminder of just like grounding back into ourselves, and, you know, for us to not judge people, or to be able to say like, well, why don't you see it like I do? Because I also think there's definitely levels of awakening too, which is like a whole nother conversation that I feel like will take us somewhere else if we continue down it. But, you know, because like you said, like, you know, I started a lot of my work with more of the body, and you're saying, well, I'm just now getting into that. That's kind of like one level of like, hey, the food system and the medical system is fucking corrupt. There's some people that have no idea or haven't even gotten there, but that's like where I started. Then, you know, then there's like the energy world box of like the emotions and energy. And then there's like, here's the spiritual box. I mean, there's a few others too. And there's some people that have tapped into all of them, opened up all the boxes, and there's some who haven't opened any. So that's why you can even have a conversation with someone that says, oh yeah, I'm awake and I'm this and I'm that. But then you start to talk to them and they're like, what are you talking about? I didn't know that. And they're like, well, I'm spiritually awake, but like, what are you talking about? The food? What are they putting in it? Yeah.
And then you realize, like, when you come back to the body, and like because your body literally speaks to you and is like our greatest divination tool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But like when you're becoming, and this again is a whole different conversation, guys, which I feel like we're going to have to talk about at some point for sure, because that's where my mind's at these days, is that the food that we put into our system is like, depending on what's in it and how energetically clear it is, for lack of a better term or way of describing it, it's almost as though that like the more shit that's in it, from a pesticide level, from a chemical level, and just in general, like an energetic level, it's almost like we're desensitized to our own inner emotions and feelings. And it's like, you have to wonder, it's like, why is that? Like, why is that intention being put there? And it comes down to money. But again, this is like a whole different conversation you could have with how the food system is corrupt. But I have one more comment, and then I'll pass it back to Nichole. And that would be it from my standpoint. But I actually just lost that thought, so never mind. We'll come back to me.
I didn't have anything else. I just wanted to see what you wanted to share as far as maybe your signature reading, if anybody was interested in booking with you, how that process would look. I know for us it was share a symptom, share something that is going on for you. So for us it was share a symptom, something that's going on physically, which was kind of hard for me because I was like, well, I have like sciatica. And then instead I ended up, I think, going with the infertility stuff that I've shared a little bit about. So is that kind of the same booking process for everybody? And I know you have different readings, but go ahead and share what that would look like for somebody.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys filled out the forms that any client would fill out. And I do ask for you to fill out and give me symptoms of like what's going on. So that can be what you're feeling in your body. That can be, you know, an illness or diagnosis you've been given. If you don't necessarily feel something, but just something for me to go off of, because when I'm in the reading, I do focus on where you're feeling it. If you're not feeling it, I'll obviously like focus on your whole energy, or I'll go to the nearest chakra. It just kind of depends on how much information you give me. So yeah, I go off of the symptom and we start there. So I'm not doing it from a Band-Aid fix of like, okay, what's on the surface level? Like, why are you having this? I'm looking for the messages that your body is trying to communicate to you. Mm-hmm. So Gabby, like you said earlier, your body is the messenger. It has so much wisdom, and you're so right. And it's trying to tell us something all the time. No matter if it's, your digestion is messed up, or you have a headache, or whatever it is, there's always some type of message. And usually I find the ones that are more chronic or more prolonged have the more profound, deeper messages. Of course, they've been there longer. But even with smaller acute symptoms, there can still be something that's maybe like just starting to hit the surface, and it's like just starting to try to tell you something. And the more and more you continue to ignore it, the more and more it's going to continue to show up.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, I start with the symptom, because obviously, we were trained to read chakras. I do definitely like pull that in. So depending on where your symptom is located in your body or where you're feeling it, almost every single time I've seen it link up to a chakra that is nearby. But also I'll just start to see like the other chakras light up if they're needing attention as well. Usually I'll start in one spot and I'm being called to another one quickly after. So those are the intuitive symptom reading is the one that she was referring to. That's what both of you received. And so it's really the first half is a reading based off of the messages that I received that I got from your symptoms. And then the second half is a healing. So every single time I have been shown some form of an intuitive healing or activation, sometimes both. And so I just send you into essentially a guided meditation, and I will use your healing team, guides, archangels, all of the beings of the light to assist me in a healing just specific for you for that day. So whatever you're needing at that time is definitely what you will receive.
Yeah, I love the way that you conducted the healing and the reading in general, but also the website and the platform that you're using. I was like, this is so professional. I need to like be better about my systems in the back end. And I felt very even just served from like the customer is it customer experience? Yeah. Customer experience. Customer satisfied. Very satisfied customer is what I was and am. I have one more question. Do you find, because I know that we work primarily, and we even have a primarily female audience with the podcast, but have you worked with men practitioners, and do you find that the energy is different? Because that's definitely been something for me.
Yeah, so as far, like, are you saying practitioners like
sorry, your clients, your male clients, have they been different than the energy you're reading from the female? Because for me, it does show up that way.
So that's funny that you asked that, because I'm trying to think back, and I truly don't think I have had a male client come through the door yet.
Not yet.
Obviously, it's open, like anybody can sign up, but clearly I'm like attracting all the women. So, and the men in my life are not really sure are open to this stuff at the moment. Maybe one day, we'll see. But no, I haven't had that experience yet. It's honestly all been women. But I do animals as well. Not as many, but I've done that as well. I just, I had a dog we adopted a dog 3 years ago that had so many problems. And so honestly, I just became his own practitioner that he didn't know he needed. And so I have just a deep love for animals and dogs specifically. So I'm always here to help out the animals as well. I just feel like they are one of the greatest gifts that we have.
Totally. I agree. Aw, thank you. I love this episode. I was
Lindsey.
just eating it up.
I feel bad we didn't get to some of the stuff you guys wanted to talk about, but it was so good.
Happens.
Next time, round 2, baby.
It happens so many times because so many other things come up, and it's like, wait, but what about this and what about that?
Yeah.
So that means you have to come back.
I'm here for it. You guys are so fun. I mean, this was just like such a fun time to hang out. And it goes by so quick.
Before it was so fucking messy.
The chunkless in the microwave, guys.
It is so in the microwave.
You haven't seen that meme?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
we have like flying chunklas. That's all I know.
It's in the microwave.
Mercury retrograde.
For sure. All right. That's all we got, I think. Thank you again, Lindsey. Spiritual Barbie.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime.
Oh.
All right, guys. See you next time. Oh, wait. Don't forget to
rate, review, and subscribe.
Rate, review.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. All those things. Okay, that's it. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.